Hi, welcome or welcome back to my channel. This is Reads with Lauren. I am Lauren and thank you so much for joining me today with this video. I decided, because I didn't think that there would be as many as there is, I decided to go back 10 years and work out all of the book series that I have started and not completed. I did not think there would be as many as there was. This is going to end up being a little bit of a video series purely because if I talked about all of these in one video, you would be here for hours and no one needs that in their life. So turns out there are 67 series that I have started and not finished in the last 10 years. That doesn't actually seem so bad when you think about it being the last 10 years, but we have to also factor in the fact that I didn't read for a few of those years, so it could have been a lot worse. But it looks like after going through all of the series, I had a total of 67, with 22 that I plan on continuing, 16 that I might continue if I feel so inclined later on, and 29 that I definitely will not be continuing. So this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about the 22 that I do plan on continuing, because it's always good to start with the highlights, and then we'll work our way through in a later video the ones that I'm thinking of continuing one day, and then another video with the ones that I definitely won't be continuing. But let's make a start. There's only one series that I started before 2021 that I do plan on revisiting, and that is the Interview with the Vampire series by Anne Rice. I have always really enjoyed this series. I read a couple of them when I was a bit younger, and I absolutely loved The Interview with the Vampire, Queen of the Damned, and Vampire Lestat movies. So in 2015, I decided to restart, particularly after watching the movie again. And I did end up reading, I believe, the first three in the series, and I didn't continue. But I've always wanted to continue. It's something that I have been really intrigued in delving in deeper. There's so many stories of all of the different vampires within that world that are just fascinating, and I can't wait to get into. But this has become a little bit more heightened since the TV show came out. Now, I don't know if you've seen the extended trailer for the second season yet, but that thing is fire. And if the trailer is that good, I cannot wait for the show. They've absolutely nailed Lestat. It's just perfect. But yes, before I ramble for too long, I'm definitely going to read the Interview with the Vampire books. I'm believe that since it's been so long, since it's been 9 years since I read the first three, I will probably give them a go from the very beginning again. I have all of them on my Kindle ready to go, so they are pretty high on the priority list. And it would be great to reread at least Interview with the Vampire and the Vampire Lestat before the second season comes out. So that's definitely a series that I will be continuing very, very soon. Moving on to a book series that I started in 2021, and that is the London Calling series by Alexis Hall. So that started with Boyfriend Material, which is a queer romance. It's fake dating trope. I really had a lot of fun with it, and Husband Material has come out, which I haven't had a chance to pick up yet, but it's definitely on my radar, particularly because I recently read 10 Things That Never Happened, which is another queer romance by Alexis Hall, and that was via audio. And even though they're kind of stories that are really out there and really almost unbelievable to a degree, they are a lot of fun. So I definitely want to get my hands on Husband Material very, very soon and finish that series, because I really did enjoy Boyfriend Material. I found that a lot of fun. So something else that I found during this research that was really exciting, back in 2021, I read an advanced reader copy of The Witch King by H.E. Edgmon. And as I was looking into this, I realized that the second one actually came out the following year, and I was not aware of that, but I really thoroughly enjoyed that series. It was a debut YA fantasy about a transgender witch who lost his powers and escaped to the human world, but he has to go back to save the Fae Kingdom and face his traumatic past and the fiance that he left behind. I had a really good time with it, and I really would love to get my hands on the second one very, very soon, and hopefully there'll be more in the series because I had so much fun with it. It was really great. The next one that I started back in 2021, and I definitely have to continue. I say started in 2021. I technically started this series a long time ago. So, I picked up the first couple of books back when I was like 12, 13, and I did enjoy them, but I think that I would get a lot more out of them now. But in 2021, The Watch came out, and so I decided to pick up Guards by Terry Pratchett, which was great, and it was based obviously on The Watch, and I really enjoyed it. It was different to the show, and the show's great. I've watched it several times over, so highly recommend if you haven't watched it. But yeah, I read Guards in 2021, so add that to Mort, The Colour of Magic, and The Light Fantastic. So I haven't read that many. There's 41 in that series, and I really would love to get into them. They've always been on my radar because they are a bit of a family favourite. I have a few family members that absolutely love Terry Pratchett's work, but I have recently fallen in love with Jodie Taylor, and Jodie Taylor bases a lot of her writing style on Terry Pratchett, and he's also one of her favourite authors. So that's really motivated me to get back on the Discworld train and give that a go. If you heard nothing about it, it is a wild, crazy sort of fantasy series that is so funny. There's so many different creatures and, witches and all of these powerful beings, and it's just a funny, funny series, and I really want to get my hands on them again very, very soon. The next series that I started in 2021 was The Start of the End, because I had heard of Brandon Sanderson before. Clearly, he is quite a popular fantasy author, but my daughter brought home Skywood, which is a YA sci-fi book that Brandon Sanderson had written, and I decided to sit down and give it a go, and I could not put that book down. I really enjoyed it, and it started my vicious obsession with that man's work. But Skyward is a YA sci-fi about Spencer, and Spencer is living on a planet with the remnants of the human race. And this planet is constantly being attacked by alien starfighters. So she longs to be a pilot in one of the ships that attacks these alien starfighters, and she starts in flight school and she works her way through flight school, but during that time she also discovers an ancient starship that she starts trying to fix up. The starship has an AI, so the banter is actually quite hilarious, and I don't know, I really enjoyed it. Spencer is definitely not a likable character, and a lot of people have really not liked that series due to the fact that she just is not likable in the first book. But I find that she improves, and I've read the first 3, and book 4 is definitely on my list. In fact, it's on my up next TBR on Kindle, so I've got it downloaded ready to read. So yeah, really enjoyed the primary works. Like I said, I've read 3 of the 4. I haven't read any of the short stories because they are co-authored, and I've heard not so positive reviews about those. The 4th one is the final one in the series, so I'm really looking forward to picking that up and finishing off this series, and then being able to say that I've actually finished a Brandon Sanderson series. I've finished Mistborn Saga 1, and I have started Era 2, but technically I haven't finished the series. So yeah, it's going to be good to be able to actually tick off one of the series that I have started by Brandon Sanderson. So that is definitely on the radar very soon. So staying sort of on the Brandon Sanderson train, after reading that series, I decided to pick up The Wheel of Time. Because that is an epic fantasy series written by Robert Jordan. However, he passed away about 11, 12 books into it, and Brandon Sanderson ended up taking over the series and finishing it off. And I've heard really good things about it, and I really want to read how he finishes the series. However, I find that Robert Jordan's writing style puts me to sleep. So I have pushed my way through the first three, and I've heard from so many people that there are many books like that kind of in the middle, and you sort of really have to work your way through, and then they start getting really, really good. And at that point, I was just sick of falling asleep all the time and not getting any reading done. So I moved on. But it is one that I am determined to keep working through because it is, I need to read Brandon's work. I need to read all of it because I really love the books that he writes. I'm just determined because I do want to know what happens to the characters. I just also know that it's told in a very convoluted, long way. So it's on the radar. It's probably not one that I'll be picking up within the next month, but it's definitely one that I want to try and continue very soon. Moving on to 2022, and I started quite a few series in 2022, a lot that I really enjoyed, starting with the Doctor Who graphic novels. So I have definitely made a bit of a dent in those. I have borrowed quite a lot of them from the library and read through them and really enjoyed. I can't tell you how many I've read and how many there are because there are so many different ones. Doctor Who is sort of like, you start crawling into that hole and, you love the show, and then you find the graphic novels, and then you find the books, and then you find the audios, and then you find and there is so much to absorb. But I love the graphic novels, and I have every intention of reading all of them eventually. One day I will sit down and map out what I have read, what I haven't read, but I know that I have read a couple of the 8th Doctor. I've read a couple of the 10th Doctor. I've read most of the 11th and the 12th Doctor. And there's been a few with many doctors together that, of course, I've picked up because I just love those episodes. And the graphic novel series with those books, with those doctors together is just brilliant. So yes, they are definitely going to be continued. And I had to resist all of the urges that I had in Melbourne to not pick up my own copies of the novels, of the graphic novels, because Book Grocer has quite a few of them. So it took a lot of resistance to not do that. The next one I wanted to chat about is the Teen Titans graphic novel series that has come out by Cami Garcia. So I have read Beast Boy and Raven, their individual graphic novels. The one after that was them together, and then there is Robin and Starfire, which I have not read yet. However, I really enjoyed the first two, and I would like to continue. And it's just a bit refreshing to watch or to consume Teen Titans in a way that's not the kids' TV show, because my kids are obsessed with it. And yeah, I really did enjoy the graphic novels, so that's one I'd like to continue very soon. So I did talk about this series in my upcoming books that I'd like to read video, but the Space Between Worlds series by Micaiah Johnson. I read the first book back in 2022 and thoroughly enjoyed it. It is very much up my alley. It's a queer sci-fi about multiverse travel, which is just so up my alley, you have no idea. The premise of these books is that people that have died in many, many multiverses end up being recruited to travel between multiverses in order to be able to do these tasks for an organization. So the book centers on our main protagonist, who has actually died in over 300 of these multiverses. So she ends up being recruited, and she travels around doing these tasks for this organization. And she discovers that in one of the worlds that she has entered, her multiverse version of herself has actually not died. And it was fascinating. Oh, I loved it. I really loved it. And I really want to reread it, actually. I think about that book all the time. And so the second one is coming out. In fact, I think it's already out this month. And I want to get my hands on it so badly. Based on the synopsis, it didn't look like it had a lot of multiverse travel involved. but it's definitely still got that dystopian vibe, which is really, really cool. So I'm really excited to keep reading those ones. Moving on to a series that I actually have in person, and that is the Spy Family series. So I have books 1 to 9. Number 10 has recently just been released. I'm not sure how many more there will be in this series, but I know that it is a very popular series that is probably going to continue for quite a while. These are actually my kids' copies. They all have read them and love them. They've read them multiple times. My 10-year-old will just say to me, pick a number between 1 and 9, and I'll pick a number, and that is the book that she ends up reading for the night. And that happens quite a lot. So they've been very well loved and they are absolutely amazing. If you don't know anything about the series, this series centers on Lloyd is a spy who needs to infiltrate this private school in order to get closer to the person he is investigating. In order to do that, he needs to look like he has a family that he can use to infiltrate this school. So he adopts this young girl and he doesn't realize that she is a telepath. And the woman that he ends up getting on side to play his wife is actually an assassin behind the scenes. It's so funny. It's a really great storyline, and I love that we're delving into all of the different characters' experiences and pasts and really learning about them. The anime series is also really great. So yes, this is one I'm definitely going to continue. In fact, I nearly picked up book 10 the other day in my little escape from my book buying van while I was in Melbourne, but it was one that I did end up having to put back down because I just couldn't justify spending the amount of money that I wanted to. But it's definitely on the radar very soon that I will be picking up book 10, and yeah, series that I highly recommend. The next series that I'm working my way slowly through is the Bright Falls series by Ashley Herring Blake. I have Delilah Green Doesn't Care in hard copy, and I listened recently to Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail on audio, and that was really, really fun. So it centers on this group of friends. It is queer romances. So we've got Delilah in the first book who ends up falling in love with her stepsister's best friend Claire. In the second book, we are with Delilah's stepsister Astrid, who ends up falling in love with this woman that she meets and has to work with together, and it's sort of like a enemies to lovers sort of trope. So there is a third book, which is their friend Iris, and I'm really pumped to get my hands on it. I'd really love to finish that series. Iris is just this exuberant, wonderful character who went through quite a lot in the second book, so I'm really intrigued to see how that one will venture out. It's not the greatest series in the world. I wouldn't say to you, you must read this for the impeccable writing style. However, if you like some saucy sapphic romance, it's definitely up your alley, and I would highly recommend checking this series out. Next series that I started last year, and I didn't realize that I had actually read this book back in 2012, so quite a long time ago, but that is The Bride Stripped Bare. So this is the Bride trilogy by Nikki Gamel. This copy says anonymous because it was firstly released anonymously, but I read this one. It's okay. It's not bad. I picked it up quite cheap and I thought, you know what, I'd like to finish the series just to see what else she has to say. I read the second one, and I definitely was uncomfortable with the premise because it was an age gap romance and one of the members of the couple was underage, so it was quite uncomfortable to read. But I didn't mind her writing style. After reading the second one and having picked up the third one, I made the decision that I will continue this series. I'd like to just be able to say that I finished it. I also picked up a copy of Pleasure, an almanac for the heart, which is another one that I would like to check out. This is her nonfiction. So we'll see. They're interesting enough to keep me hooked in and making me want to finish. I haven't DNF'd any of her books yet, but the fact that I had already read this one and I couldn't remember it, that kind of gives you a bit of an indication. You know, it wasn't memorable, and I do remember it now, but I don't think about it all the time. So take that as you will. But yes, I would like to finish the series and see what happens in the third book. Another series I randomly picked up off Facebook Marketplace. I am a huge fan of The Crow. Equal parts bitterly disappointed that they are remaking it, but also it kind of looks pretty cool. So that's probably one that I'll begrudgingly watch, but I absolutely love the original movie, and the subsequent movies after that, even though they were sort of B grade, I really enjoyed a couple of them particularly. So when I saw these books, I had to get them, and they are the Crow series. I have books 3 to 6. They are standalone, so I was able to start at book 3 without it being too much of an issue. Book 1 kind of tells the story of the movie, the first movie, but these are their own sort of stories with the same sort of premise. So if you haven't heard of The Crow, basically what happens is the Crow brings back these people who are killed unjustly or unfairly in order for them to take revenge. I'm a huge fan of revenge stories, and like I love The Punisher, I love The Crow, I love stuff like that. So I thought these would be great. And I've read 2 of these. So I've read Quoth the Crow, which wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. And The Lazarus Heart by Poppy Z. Brite. This was penned by William Martin, pre-transition, and I have heard a lot of crazy stories about his horror stories, so really intrigued to venture down that trail a little bit more. But this wasn't bad. I didn't mind it at all. I mean, I didn't feel the same sort of romantic love, like coming back to avenge your partner because you were made for each other. The relationship was quite toxic in this one and a bit strange, but it was good. I enjoyed it. I couldn't put this one down. And I would like to read these 2. They just haven't been a priority, but they are on the radar for soon. The next series is huge, so I don't think I'll take it off the bookshelf because that would just be a whole lot of mess. But just behind me, it's right here. And that is the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson. I have read the first 2 books, which are broken up into 4 books because the books are massive. They're humongous. They're over 1,000 pages each. I do kind of wish that I bought them in the smaller paperback version, the mass market version, because the covers on those are really gorgeous. But I do love the fact that they're almost all white and almost all the same size and theme. So we'll roll with that. I don't need several copies of the same books, but really love this series. I've read this one, these 4. I've got the 4 more to go before the 5th one is released at the end of this year. Brandon's currently working on revisions for it, which is so exciting, and I like to catch up on his weekly updates on YouTube. But yes, this is one that I thoroughly enjoy. Massive epic fantasy. It's probably the most epic fantasy of all of his series, and I really enjoy it and definitely plan on continuing. The next series that I will definitely be finishing very soon as I can, to be honest with you, is the monster manga. So I have the first 5 volumes of the Perfect Edition. So this is several different chapters within each book, within each volume. This is such a great story, and there's 4 more, which I will be getting as soon as I viably can. But it centers on Tenma. Tenma is a doctor. He ends up having to make this really tough decision, walking away from a young boy who will die if he doesn't have surgery, to work on the mayor. Because of financial reasons, obviously the chief of medicine chooses to go for the mayor before, popularity, and to ensure that, to look good, essentially. And Tenma makes a decision to help this child instead. The child then grows up to be an absolute psychopath and ruins his life, and it's amazing. And I won't give too much more away, but I have been reading the series. I have started the anime, and I have every plan, every intention to go back to it. It's just such a great series, and I highly recommend it. This is the kind of manga that I love, where there is intrigue and clever people, plot and intrigue, and yeah, it's great fun and I highly recommend it. So the next series that I started, I read 7 of the 16. It is an epic fantasy that started in the 80s. However, it doesn't have as much of the general talk of, you know, the misogyny and the sexism and all of that. So I really enjoyed it. That is the Devilry Cycle series by Catherine Kerr. So it's this epic fantasy. It centers on reincarnation, there's wild folk, there's magic, and it's really intriguing and very easy to read, very enjoyable, and I'm saying that from the perspective of someone who struggles with classic sci-fi and classic fantasy. So yeah, I will definitely be continuing that series. Next on my list is Legend and Latte series by Travis Baldree. So I have spoken about this one before, but Legends and Lattes is this beautiful cozy fantasy about this orc who decides to retire from being an orc and open a coffee shop in a town that has never heard of coffee. It is cozy, it's sapphic, it's beautiful, it's just like a warm hug, it's really fun. So when I found out that a prequel was coming out, Bookshops and Bone Dust, I got really excited. And so it's also high up there on my TBR, it's downloaded on my Kindle, ready to go. And yeah, a great series, and I'm really hoping that the second book is just as comfortable and warm and snuggly and fun. Another series that I'm really desperate to continue, it's a massive manga series, and it is One Piece by Ichiro Oda. This centers on Monkey D. Luffy. He is a aspiring pirate. He dreams to be the pirate king, and when he was younger he ate from the gum gum fruit, which is a devil fruit, which has turned his body into rubber essentially, so he can stretch in any direction that he so chooses. However, it does mean that he can no longer swim, but that doesn't deter him from his dreams, and he decides to go and search for the One Piece, which is this treasure that the previous pirate king announced that he had hidden prior to his death. So this is a really fun series. I have a lot of fun with it. I've watched the live action TV show, which I really loved. The kids love the anime, and these are also the kids' books, and so these have been reread and loved many times. But yes, I really love them, and I have every intention of continuing. So over birthdays and Christmases, these will probably be ongoing presents for the kids, which will also be ongoing presents for me. So, and then I ventured into the Doctor Who books. So I've read most of the graphic novels, and I ventured into reading the actual books. A lot of them I listen to in audio because it kind of just gives me those really fun Doctor Who vibes without having to focus when I'm working or I'm cleaning. And they are a lot of fun. I have actually read 26 of the 70 in the new series adventures, but there's also so many different series. As I mentioned with the graphic novels, the books are insane. There's so many for each Doctor, including all of the classics. So it's, you know, I'm never going to finish them all, but I really enjoyed the ones that I've read so far. I've only read 1 or 2 of the 9th Doctor, but I've read all of the 10th Doctor with every intention of starting the 11th Doctor very soon. So lots of fun there, really loved them. Another one I've really enjoyed, and I've actually got the second in my room ready to go, so I won't hold them all up for you, but this is Mistborn Era 2, Brandon Sanderson. As I said, I've read Era 1, thoroughly enjoyed them. This one gives more of a Western sort of vibe, but I really enjoyed it and very excited to start the second one. It's a fun ride. I've really enjoyed reading the first book, and I can't wait to get my hands on the second one. It's honestly just a case of so many books, so little time, but they're definitely on the radar very soon. The last series that I want to mention in this particular video is the graphic novel series Saga. I have read the first 3 volumes. I have every intention of continuing these. I have really enjoyed them. They center on Marco and Alana. They are lovers from opposing sides of an ongoing galactic war, and they risk everything when they discover that they're pregnant in order to bring their daughter into the world and keep her safe. I will definitely be continuing this. This is definitely an adult series. There is a lot in here that is quite triggering, but it's a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed it so far. So every intention of continuing these ones. And that's it for part 1 of this series. These are the 22 series that I have started in the last 10 years that I have every intention of finishing very soon. They're high on my priority list. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and if there are any series that you have started and would love to get back to. I'd love to talk more. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video very soon. Goodbye, my darlings.